All right, guys, as many of you know, and you've probably already watched, the incredible Netflix docu-series called Tiger King. It has basically swept the nation, and it's been an interesting bonding experience for all of us during this strange isolation time of quarantine. The characters, the storylines, it's all been mind-blowing. We can't get enough. And joining us now is Dillon Passage, one of the breakout stars of the series. Dillon, thank you so much for being here. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, glad to be here, man.
Take us back, I guess, over the course of the past 2-3 weeks. How has life changed for you since this docuseries took off on Netflix?
My life has been put on blast completely. Everybody's like super curious about what I'm doing, you know, what I've been through, how Joe has been, and you know how the show's affected me. Really, it's a bit overwhelming because I was never, you know, wanting to be like in the public eye. But now that it's happening, I mean, it's just something I'm kind of going with the flow with.
Yeah. And when you watched back, I'm assuming you've watched the whole docuseries at this point. What did you think about it? How everyone was portrayed?
What would you say to Joe right now if you could talk to him?
I would just hug him. You know, that's what he needs. He doesn't have any contact, and he's a very affectionate man.
I feel like it was really accurate. The producers, Rebecca and Eric, did a really good job. 3 or 4 of the interviews that I did with them were not put into the series, you know, which really told a lot about my background and the things that I've been through, and you know how me and Joe like really came to get to know each other. But they took the time to make sure that they were getting the true story, and they just tried to keep everything as real as possible.
You can believe what you want to believe about whether or not things are sent to you or people are sent to you or whatever, but we went to dinner and he never went home.
And so you're married to Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that in terms of how you met, how you fell in love with him. What was it about him, that initial spark, that reaction? What worked for you that made you think, oh my goodness, this is someone that I could be in a relationship with, and then you ultimately fell in love and became married?
His charisma, man. He was like, as you saw on the show, he spoke his mind and he really didn't care what people thought.
My name is Joseph Maldonado, a.k.a. Joe Exotic, and yes, I'm running for governor of the state of Oklahoma as well.
He stayed true to himself constantly, and he's such a generous person. He does anything to help anybody who needs their help or needs his help, and you know, he really does want the best for people, and I admire that in him.
As someone watching and then, you know, hearing his voice on those taped recordings from prison.
This is Joe Exotic from your local jail in Chickasha, Oklahoma.
All I could think was, I would just love to know what he is making of all of this whirlwind of attention, this flurry of attention that this documentary has brought to him in his life. What does he make of it? What's he saying about everything?
He absolutely loves the attention. I mean, at first he was pretty wary, you know, he wasn't sure how he was going to be portrayed, but he was getting a lot of jail mail and emails and like mail just sent to him, like letters, and he loved the feedback. And, you know, he wished he could reply to everybody, but, you know, he's only allowed to do so much and send out so many letters. But yeah, as you know, his name is Joe Exotic. Like he likes to be in the limelight. And so this was, you know, he had to go to jail for it to happen, but it happened.
Were you shocked by Joe Exotic's arrest and conviction in this whole situation?
Oh yeah, I had no idea. So he was just going to the hospital to apply for a job and put in his resume, and I get a call and he's like, I'm in the back of, what are they called?
Like a police car or something, or like the station?
He was in the back of a police car. The people who like travel, like the police officers that travel and fly to go and get people.
Okay.
I forget what they're called.
Yeah, but officers kind of got him in custody.
Yeah. So he's on the phone with me and he's like, I'm getting arrested right now. Like, you got to come up here and get my truck. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what's happening? And he was like, they won't tell me. So then I get up there and I asked the police officer, you know, like what's going on? And he was like, I can't tell you. So I didn't know what was happening until his mediation later that day.
Has Joe been able to see any of the docuseries in Tiger King?
No, I mean, he's in jail, so I mean, I don't really think that's possible. I mean, he got to see the news and like everything that was happening on the news, but he hasn't seen like the whole series, you know.
What has he told you about his experience in jail, other than the you know, the fan mail and things like that, but just the day to day?
super rough, super hard for him. You know, he's been put in isolation quite a few times, and you know, sometimes he doesn't know why, and you know, he's just obviously not used to living that kind of lifestyle. I mean, he's lived at the zoo for most of his life and gotten able to do what he wants and do the things that he loves, and for all of that to be taken away from you in the blink of an eye has got to be, you know, traumatic and overwhelming.
What has made you decide to stay with Joe Exotic throughout this whole period of time and as he's in prison?
So I was in a really, really bad place whenever I met Joe, and super depressed, and you know, just felt really alone. And you know, he was there for me with it, like without a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, what kind of person would I be to just bail out on him when he gets put in this kind of situation?
I've found a lot of people, just to be honest with you, in my circles of friends that have watched, have been were surprised to see you with him and to see you marry him. Why do you think people have been surprised by that? What's your response when people are maybe shocked at the pairing? It's in some ways an unlikely pairing.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a really big age gap, but I mean, that was never an issue with me. I kind of like older guys anyway, and I don't know. I mean, I never cared what people thought, like people's opinions, you know, they're entitled to it. And I mean, at the end of the day, nothing's really going to change what they think. So, I mean, I just kind of keep living my life.
If you're gonna ride in here, I need you to stand here and let them get used to it. They're not gonna bite you, they're just babies.
We saw many sides of Joe Exotic on the docu-series and how he interacted with the animals. We saw glimpses of good things, bad things. How was Joe with the animals based on what you saw?
He treated them like they were his children. Every day he would, as he's walking by the cages, he would say hi and like put his hands in the cages, and like the tigers and lions were super comfortable with him. You know, like he raised most of them from when they were babies.
Right.
So, I mean, they were obviously comfortable with him. He was comfortable with them. They totally made him happy.
And so when you think about your life there, when you were living at the zoo for a period of time, right, with the cats and everything, what was life like then, and what do you miss about it?
It was, so I've always been an animal lover ever since I was a little kid. So like being around the animals, it actually brought me out of my depression and, you know, got me in the right headspace and made me feel like I had a purpose. I mean, I got to take care of baby tigers every day, baby kangaroos, lemurs, whatever you could think of, you know, zebra, camel. It was like a dream come true, and to have that ripped away from me was definitely like heart-wrenching, but I can't even imagine what it was like for Joe, you know, like he spent his whole life doing this kind of thing. Big things coming. He wants to, you know, he wants to restart his life and, you know, have his animals just for him, not a public zoo, but a privatized zoo, and just enjoy his life and kind of put all this behind him and see where things go.
And how about for you? What's your future look like, just in general for yourself, and then also with Joe?
I mean, that's kind of the same thing I want to do, you know. I mean, I was ecstatic and so happy being at the zoo. I mean, that was probably the happiest I'd ever been, and I definitely want to, you know, remake that life and rebuild that kind of situation.
What did your family make of the docu-series after they saw it?
My stepdad, who I call dad because he was there when my real dad wasn't, he was super proud because first off, he didn't even know exactly what was happening. And then to hear like the backstory of everything, he was just shocked of, you know, exactly what I've been through, because I'm not exactly open about it because it's not something that I want to live or define my life. And I don't know, everyone really in the family was just shocked to see exactly what had perspired, you know?
Yeah. If we move forward, imagine a movie being made about this whole thing. Who plays Dillon?
Zac Efron.
Oh, nice. Okay. You've thought about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been asked this question multiple times.
Of course. Oh, this is the most original question ever. What is it about? What does Zac possess that makes him the right actor?
Blue eyes, dark hair, good looking. I mean, what else can I say?
What else can you say? Do you know if there's going to be follow-ups in terms of new docuseries that come out following this and where they would go?
I'm not sure if I can speak about it publicly, but I know that there is something in the works. So stay tuned.
If you had one thing to say to Carole Baskin, what would it be?
I have absolutely nothing to say to Carole Baskin. I mean, I don't know her, so, you know, I've never met her, and, you know, she's going to live her life, and she may do some sketchy things, but, you know, she complains about Joe owning big cats and all these other people owning big cats, but she owns big cats, and her cages are pretty tiny. So, I mean, she says that Joe is mistreating his animals by having them in the cages, but she's doing the exact same thing.
Dillon, it's good to hear from you, man. Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything moving forward, okay?
Yep, for sure. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.